Hi, welcome to Sips and Tips Advice. In this video today, I want to talk about us trusting in the Lord. I know a lot of people don't like to get on the subject of God and religion and all that great stuff. But sometimes there's no other way around it. And no matter how much we want to tippy-toe around subjects, there's no way around it. Some things are meant for us to go through. Actually, I think a lot of things are meant for us to go through. It's kind of reminds me of the Psalms. It's kind of popped into my head right now, which is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. And I wonder sometimes if people really think about the words that are being shared in that. Yea, though. So even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So it's not even death itself. It's just the things that we go through. A lot of times it seems like it's death itself. Oh my God, my life is over and this is happening to me. But it's just a shadow, a forecast of what appears to be the real thing happening, but it's not. How many of us are tripping on what appears to be the death as we're walking through our valley, going to wherever we're going? Because you have to be in a valley in order to get into a higher place. We have to be in a valley. A lot of times we start in a valley so we can continue our journey and keep walking upward or forward or whatever, or to that mountain that you're meant to walk to before you climb. Each one of us have our own journey. So, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. So even during your darkest moments, God still wants you to trust in him with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, because our understanding is so limited. Think about that. How many times we think we know something and then only to come to find out how wrong we truly are, because we think we know everything, so we don't want no one to tell us nothing. I just engaged in a conversation like this a couple of days ago where I was talking with someone, and man, they just had an answer for everything. I couldn't even get out of words to even explain what I wanted to explain, because they knew everything. They felt like they knew everything. And the moment you feel like you know everything, you cut yourself off from receiving any truth. There's no way possible, even with me. I think everything is a learning lesson for everyone. I'm no exception. There's always some new experience I'm coming to, and I'm realizing, hey, I don't know everything. I'm coming to that place where it's okay for me to receive it from someone else and not feel threatened from that other person because they're introducing me to something new. God has a funny way of bringing to me. God has a funny way of bringing what you need to know. He has a way of bringing it to you. Because if you don't go search for it, he's going to bring it to you, to your attention. So don't fear the person or fear whatever it is that's coming your way. Be open. Be open. I'm not saying be an idiot. I'm not saying be foolish, be stupid. All I'm saying is be open. You never know where your message is coming from. You never know where a new friendship is coming from. You never know where a new relationship is coming from, all because you think you know everything. We don't know everything. In the moment we start praying more, seeking God's advice more, because we all fall off every now and then. I know I do. And I've come to see, and it's a repeated thing, keep going back in the same direction, which is for me to learn how to seek God first. And that means in everything I do before I start working. Before I start worrying about anything. And I came to this realization this morning when I woke up, and I'm reading this book. It's The Confidence of Faith, Getting Answers to Every Prayer. And it's by Sade Adowu, Idowu. And you can find her book on BibleStudyOutreach.net. I was reading this book this morning. I've been reading this for a while, so clearly that's why it's missing this cover. But I've only read a little bit, and this is the first time that I came back to it and it's funny. I feel like, once again, like I said, our messages come in funny ways, and we have to be open to receiving them. And I had quite several messages coming through this, and it's funny, you know, this the part that I'm on now, and it's talking about, you know, it's easy for us to forget all the good things that God has done for us because our mind gets so focused on the problem. And it was saying, just start to remember everything that God's done for you. So I pretty much just went through the whole of this year, 2014 and 2013. And I was just thinking about all the good things that God has done for me. And oh my gosh, you know, it just left me like feeling so light. And like, we need to do that more often, because it's too often we go from one problem to another problem to another problem. And instead of being so grateful that, you know, miraculously you got pulled out of this one situation and a solution came like just like that, and there's no way you can explain it because you know it's not just you. Because, you know, it's easy for us to be like, oh man, I got through this. Oh man, it's so awesome. I got this, I got that. But yeah, you were being blessed with it. So however you want to look at it, whether it's God, the universe, whatever, you're being blessed with it. Being grateful is step number one to get you back on the right track. But yeah, so trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but acknowledge Him in all your ways. Acknowledge. So it goes right back to what I was just saying about thinking about all the good things He's done. And it's not you. It is from something so much greater than you. Something so much greater than you. You don't have to know what it is. You don't have to know the name. If you're, you know, one of those people who are just, you know, you're still searching for the answer. Because if you read all these books, the Lord has had so many different names. You know, every generation, every era has called God something. So just be grateful. So acknowledge Him in all your ways. And when you can do that, guess what He can do? Or guess what He will do? Or guess what He has done? He will continue to direct your paths with an S. Not just a path, but your paths. People who get lost, we all get lost in our own sauce. Because we're doing it to ourselves, you know, and it's easy for us to get distracted by what goes on. But if we don't keep our eyes focused on the hills or the Lord, and to me, the hill is upward, not downward, upward on your climb, keeping your eyes up on the hill, you know, we're going to get distracted by what's on that journey up that hill. So every day it needs to be a daily thing for us to be praying and sitting and reading, you know, whether it's including the Bible and including any kind of spiritual book, any kind of spiritual video. I personally like books. I like books because at some point I like to turn off all the electrical stuff. I like to just look at some paper and just feel the textures and read it and repeat it back to myself. I like that. That's just my personal preference. And just remember this. I learned this the other day, and it just kind of like clicked in my head like that. How many of us are reading books and we only read it once and we don't read it and touch it again? Because you read it once, that's it, you know it, so that's it. I read something that says anything becomes a part of you once you have listened to or read it 16 times. 16. How many of us has sang a song, and no matter how annoying it is, if you continue to hear that song over 16 times, eventually it comes on and you start doing what? Even though you can't stand it. You start singing it. Same thing kind of applies with this, with our walk with God, which is, if you're going to read something, don't just read it once. That's not enough. It's not going to become a part of you. You need to read it at least 16 times. And then keep reading it after that. I think too many of us get these self-help books, these spiritual books, you know, whatever, and we only read it once. And the other thing too is to slow down and read it. Take your time to read it and get what it's saying. Don't just read it just to skim through it, hurry and get to the end. That's almost like you living your life trying to hurry and get to the end, and you're not going to enjoy any of the moments in between because you're not taking your time to gain understanding from it. So take your time. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, which is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You shall not want. Think about that. How many of us are seeking something else and we're wanting? We're still wanting. It's because we're not seeking God first. And I really believe that's our purpose, is to seek God first. I've heard that growing up my whole life, and I didn't get it until 2 years ago. And I'm in my 30s. But it's okay, because we all come into whomever we're going to be in our own time. And even then, that's not who you are, because you're still always forever growing. So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So yeah, I'm going to go through stuff for his name's sake. Even though it's causing me pain, I'm going to go through stuff because it is me that is straying away from him, kind of like the sheep that strays off on the mountainside, and hopefully the wolf doesn't get me. It's not just about him doing stuff for us or us just trying to serve him. It's about a relationship. It's about a friendship. It was about us talking to him about our deepest desires. And he knows it, but he wants you to humble yourself and come closer. Draw near. The nearer you draw. It doesn't say God draw near to me and then I will draw near to him. It says, draw near to me and I'll draw near to you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. And God is always with us. It is us that are choosing to look at our problems and not acknowledge and just not even acknowledge, but to just focus on our problems and acting like that's the only thing that exists. And it's so we're just focusing on that shadow of death, And if we can just take our eyes off that and keep our eyes up on the hill while we're in our valleys. Keep your eyes on the hill while we're in our valleys. Things will change for us. But we have to choose to do it. We have to pick up our head and look up. We have to open our eyes and look to see where we're going and not do this number right here and stay focused on the shadow, And all of it goes back to trusting in the Lord with all your heart. When stuff starts to happen with me and throughout my day, and I know it's testing me and it's testing my character, I gotta remind myself, even when I forget, because it's easy for us to get caught up in some shenanigans, some foolishness with our feelings. And feelings, if you follow your emotions, they will lead you down the wrong path, and that's for sure. And it's definitely not up the hill. It's going to lead you down the hill. But just remembering to keep our eyes, like I said, keep our eyes up. So, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies, because you want me to eat good. You want to provide for me. You want me to feel like a queen, or the king I am, or, all depending who you are. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I learned this growing up as a kid and having to memorize this whole thing. But if you really, really think about the words, we realize that all God wants to do is to have us just connect with him. Just connect. And then not just connect with him and ignore everybody else too, because when your head gets anointed and you are connected, guess what happens? Your cup runneth over. And it doesn't run over on you. It runs over on everything that is around you, including people around you. And we need to be okay with that. And there's nothing wrong with sharing the wealth, and it's not about you giving it. It's going to happen anyway. Whatever knowledge you have, share with people. It's going to run all over them, and it's going to run over everyone else. Certain things I realize is easier when you live it. You live by example. Then that's how other people learn. So if you're looking to inspire other people, I say live by example. You know, talking is just, sometimes silence is best. Action, to me, action just speaks more. But you know, sometimes we all need all forms of encouragement. All of us do. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope whomever this message is supposed to reach, that it does. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, loves.